What does healing mean to me? I almost want to change the question to what does healing mean for me? It feels less intellectual that way. Um, so what does healing mean for me? Whew, it's meant a lot of things at different times in my life. Um, and I think sometimes I even question if healing is a thing or possible, or more if it's possible to be healed. Um, because I've definitely healed through things. Um, but I don't know if there's like an end goal, really. I've spent a lot of my life being deeply miserable and unhappy, and I feel like my healing journey so far has been like healing toward being able to connect more with joy, and like especially being able to share joy with people, because I feel like for some reason, I don't know why, in my life it's been easier to share my pain and be seen in that. Um, and more vulnerable to be seen in my joy or like my playfulness. And so I feel like a lot of my healing has been like learning how to play, learning how to share laughter and joy with people. Um, and that's like unlocked so much for me in terms of what I do in my life. Um, yeah, I just think back to like middle school and even elementary school, and at some point along the way, I feel like I just forgot how to play. And I got really shut out of my body, and I lost my voice. And I just felt like a shell and like a chameleon that would just try to fit in to different spaces. Um, but I didn't, because I like had nothing to offer back. So I didn't even fit in. I was just like there. Um, and what started breaking that, I think the first thing that started breaking it was anger. I think anger has been pretty central to my healing process, and like being able to connect with like the rage that I feel about the world. Um, because that's where I like started to find my voice. Um, I started learning about like environmental catastrophes, and I that was a place that I couldn't stay silent, and so I started to be able to speak about that. And so slowly like starting to find my voice and like ability to be like a person that's just like coming, be able to engage with other people coming from my own like knowing my own truth. Um and then the second piece that I'm thinking of is like unlocking my body and my connection to my body, which rage helped, because like screaming and hitting things, I mean, that is a way to connect. back into body, and crying. It did a lot of crying. And that was like just about the only way I knew how to move. And then I found hula hooping. Well, I don't really call it hula hooping, but I call it hooping. And yeah, something I couldn't do it as a kid. Um, but I came across someone doing it at a festival and they taught me how to do it. Just like basic arm and waist. And there was music playing in the background and um, I felt like having the circle around me was like a protection ring. And I could move inside of that ring. And it was like a boundary. And nobody else could get inside of it, so I could do whatever I wanted. Um, and that unlocked all sorts of movement because it led me into dance and partner dancing, and it led me into circus arts, which is like taken over my life and brought so much joy. And like it's really ironic because circus is all about play, and I literally just couldn't play for so much of my life, and like my whole life was about grief. I guess that's the third thing, was the grief work, because when I was in all that rage and grief about the world and relationships have been a big grief for me, and a big place of healing continuously. Um, I I just felt pathologized by a lot of people by the amount of grief I felt, and that made me feel like more was wrong with me, like I was more broken, because it was like, why are you so upset about this? um, and then I found a community of people who were just like, hey, come express your grief and your rage and like just let it out, and it's welcome, and like any amount of it, you can be as loud as you want, you can be as messy as you want, you don't even have to wipe your snot away. Just like let it go. And it was like so many things converged to help me find that community, and it was like coming home. um and that work saved my life so many times over, because I could just go into that space and feel what I needed to feel. I think a lot of disease and a lot of unhealth is like suppression of emotion, and like things being locked up, like my body being locked up and my voice being locked up and my emotions being locked up. Like it just, everything gets stagnant, and I was depressed. And then as soon as I found grief work, I stopped being depressed and I started feeling empowered. Like I was moving it through and energizing myself instead of trying to just like stuff it. Um, and so all of those things, grief, anger, movement, it's all just like embodiment and like reconnecting to like being alive. All of the facets of it. And one thing we repeat a lot in grief work is like, you like you can't, how do we say it, like you have to get up to the, in order to get up to the joy, you have to go down deep. And it's like the deeper that you can go in grief and feeling, like the higher you can also feel. And it's like, it's not a polarity, it's that they're married to each other. And yeah, so I think that's been like my biggest healing, is like unlocking the stagnation and like letting things move. Um, and that worked. That worked for a long time. Uh, Keeping me from getting stagnant. And I don't know, I feel like I'm in a new layer right now of what healing means for me. I think I'm less naive now, and I've cried rivers of tears and screamed until my voice has gone out like so many times, and the world's so fucked up and seemingly getting worse every day. Um, and sometimes it feels like there's this idea that individual humans can be healed and whole inside of like a completely fractured world. And I don't know if that's possible. Um, and I think in grief work we also talk about like the emptying of the world as like the sorrow of being alive in this time, like that with species loss. And it's like, can humanity exist in like a healthy way without like the rest of the living world and the community? So I just wonder about that, and I feel that, like I feel this like existential loneliness that's not about human to human connection, but just like the loss of living in a, a living world, an ecosystem. And the times that I can, go to the Olympic National Park or like connect to a real ecosystem, it's that feeling of like aliveness and like being connected with all of what it means to be alive and not just the concrete world. Um, so that's like zoomed out, and then there's like a lot of zooming in. Right now, I'm doing something I literally never thought I would do. Um, I joined 12-step group, and there was like a lot of judgment in me of like the type of people that go to 12-step or like have to. Um, and it's changing my world. Like it's so humbling. It's it's like digging into the nitty-gritty of like all of my patterns and dissecting like basically like all of the relationships that I've had in my life, and friendships and romantic relationships and familial relationships. And it's like that's a lifetime of work of like relearning and seeing clearly like what I've done and what has been done to me, and like what I've allowed to happen to me and what I've allowed myself to do to other people. And yeah, um, it feels unending. And it also feels like I'm getting even stronger in myself and like my ability to just be a human with other humans and be a human with other non-humans and just be a human in the world and all the ways that it is that I can't control. But I don't have to have all the answers or know what healing is. I can just take these steps, 12 steps, and like just make progress toward myself, I guess. And I feel like I've stepped back from the grief work, but I feel like doing this program is like prompting me, is like reminding me how much I need to be grieving regularly with other people and like witnessing that in other people and being witnessed. Because I can cry alone in my room and it's different than being seen. And so I want to step back toward that. I know that that's a central part of what healing means to me and what I came here to do. I guess that's it. That's all that's coming to me right now. But I know there's so much more. Thanks for listening.